Welcome to the world of teaching, a cutthroat competition of survival with only one prize, the coveted permanent teaching position. Black Dog depicts a cast of characters in a world that feels all too real as it explores the inner workings of a school. Following the journey of a beginning teacher, the show takes the perspective of the stranger learning to adjust to her new surroundings and finding her place in the unfamiliar. Episode 1 Recap 2007. On a high school field trip, teacher Kim Young-ha, cameo by Tae-in-ho, chaperones a bus of students along with their homeroom teacher. Young-ha notices one of the students, Go Hae-nyul, Ryu Ji-eun, wearing a cast on her leg as she talks with her worried mom over the phone. Outside, the sunny weather turns to rain. As the road gets narrower, a truck passes the bus, and the annoyed bus driver tailgates the truck into a tunnel. Suddenly, the truck swerves to the side, and the bus driver notices the disabled vehicle too late. He hits the car, causing the bus to flip over and crash. Though hurt, the students file out of the wreckage on their own, and Young-ha exits the tunnel last due to his wounded leg. Patrol officers who arrive at the accident site warn the students and teachers that the bus will explode, but the bad news continues. Hae-nyul is still on the bus. Young-ha exchanges looks with the homeroom teacher, and as if in a trance, he turns and enters the tunnel. The homeroom teacher shouts at Young-ha to come back, but Young-ha marches onward. With her leg pinned between two seats, Hae-nyul desperately calls out for help, and when all hope seems lost, Young-ha answers. He helps Hae-nyul out of her seat, and luckily for them, a patrol officer followed after Young-ha and assists him in getting Hae-nyul out of the bus. As the officer reaches down to pull up Young-ha as well, Young-ha tells them to go on ahead. With the clock ticking, the officer takes Hae-nyul out first, but as they reach the end of the tunnel, the bus explodes. A cloud of smoke swallows up Hae-nyul, and she falls to the ground, barely conscious. The news reports on the bus accident, declaring the death of one teacher, Young-ha. Hae-nyul attends his funeral, and in the back, Young-ha's mother argues with the school administrators. According to the law, Young-ha's family can't receive any compensation because he was a contract worker, which doesn't make him an official teacher at their school. Young-ha's wife, Song Young-suk, accuses the administrators of using her husband as cheap labor and reminds them that no law forces private schools to hire short-term teachers. Their cries of injustice fall on deaf ears, and all the administrators and teachers in attendance leave without a word of condolence. While Young-ha's family mourns, Hae-nyul stares at his portrait and wonders what could have made him go to such lengths for her. Life resumes as normal for all those at the school, but Young-suk continues her silent and lonely fight for her husband. Hae-nyul watches her protest even in the rain, but rather than approach her, she runs away with a pained expression. After some time passes, Hae-nyul finds her way back to the tunnel where the accident occurred. More years pass and adult Hae-nyul, Seo Hyun-jin, now stands in front of the tunnel, still searching for the answer to her question. February 2019. Hae-nyul turns in her teaching application, and her face falls when she realizes that she's already the 101st person to apply for the one open position. Afterwards, she bikes to a noodle shop and cheerily greets the owner, Young-suk. Hae-nyul tells Young-suk about her plans to teach while studying for her teacher certification exam and explains that she applied for both short-term and permanent positions at public or private schools. Ignoring the elephant in the room, Young-suk tells Hae-nyul to stop coming by once she gets a teaching position, but Hae-nyul ignores her request and says that she'll drop by again. At her part-time job, Hae-nyul talks with her friend over the phone when she receives a call from an unknown number. She decides to answer it, and the vice principal from Daechi High School congratulates her on passing the first round. Since the school year starts in 20 days, they need to speed up the hiring process, so Vice Principal Lee schedules an in-person interview for that afternoon. Principal Byun enters the staff room as Vice Principal Lee gets off the phone with Hae-nyul, and the two of them discuss the new short-term hires. Vice Principal Lee assures the principal that they chose young prospective teachers with no experience since they're naive and less likely to run away. Yes, exactly what I hope for in my teachers. Despite it still being winter vacation, all the teachers of Daechi High School gather in the auditorium for a presentation by the college advisory department. Principal Byun sits in the front with Vice Principal Lee on his right and the head of school administration, Moon Soo-ho, on his left. College advisor Do Yeon-woo, Ha-jun, leads the presentation, but as soon as he announces the absence of their head college advisor, Teacher Song decides to wreak havoc. Before the presentation even begins, he questions the authority of the college advisory department and calls them out for overstepping departmental boundaries. Teacher Song mocks the college advisors for not producing results, and college advisor Bae Myung-soo, Lee Chang-hoon, whispers at his junior colleague to keep his cool. To Myung-soo's relief, Yeon-woo continues the presentation and points out the copy and paste nature of the student records, courtesy of Teacher Song, who heads the department for third-year students aka juniors in the American system. In order to defend their department, Teacher Ha passes the blame onto the Department of Creative Activities, which Teacher Han leads, and Yeon-woo agrees that the department put its own convenience over the students' interests. Myung-soo sets aside his documents and sighs, it's war all over again. After the presentation, Teacher Song calls to make sure the head college advisor is still absent and then storms the department. He shouts at Yeonwoo for ridiculing his senior in front of the entire staff, but Yeonwoo ignores both Teacher Song's scolding and Myung-soo's silent pleas. Myung-soo receives a call from the head advisor who's on her way right now, and immediately, Teacher Song quiets down and leaves the office without another word. In truth, it was just a spam caller, and Myung-soo wonders where their department head actually is. On the subway, head college advisor Park Sung-soon, R.A. Miran, watches a music video of Twice when Myung-soo calls her. He informs her of the school's plans to hire a new short-term teacher today, which is news to her. Hae-nyul looks for a suit to wear for her interview and notices her uncle calling her mom. Hae-nyul reprimands her mom for asking her younger brother for favors, but mom doesn't see the harm in it. While mom escapes to the bedroom to answer her phone, dad calls Hae-nyul to their cleaners where he hands her an expensive suit, supposedly bought by mom years ago for Hae-nyul. Sung-soon storms into the faculty office and confronts the vice principal and Teacher Song for hiring a new short-term teacher without consulting her. The vice principal explains that their previous short-term teacher ran away and points out the root of their problem. The position falls under both the college advisory and Year 3 department. The two department heads argue over where the new teacher should be located, and the college advisory department wins since they have more space in their office. While Hae-nyul arrives for her interview, Sung-soon catches up on the latest gossip from Teacher Song, the head of the department of after-school program. The whole new hire situation smells of nepotism, but since it's only a short-term position, no one seems too bothered by it, except Sung-soon. She vows to catch the parachute and with Myung-soo in tow, she barges into the principal's office and sits in on the interviews. The first phase of the interview consists of a mock lecture, and unlike the other two candidates, Hae-nyul structures her lesson around the college entrance exam. When asked about the reasoning behind their lesson plan, Hae-nyul describes the realistic needs of students which led her to examine the patterns of test questions on the exam, but in her answer, she misnames the educational broadcasting station, much to her embarrassment. Throughout the interview, Sung-soon takes mental notes of the committee members' reactions to deduce who the parachute is, and from the way the others pay special attention to Hae-nyul, it's obvious that she's the one. When the interview ends, Sung-soon asks a last-minute question, "Do any of you know someone at this school?" The candidates stare back at the committee with blank expressions, Hae-nyul completely unaware of the accusation being lodged at her. The principal waves aside Sung-soon's question and dismisses the candidates from the room. In the hallway, Hae-nyul hides her face in mortification over her mistake, but the committee is concerned with a bigger issue than her little mix-up. Sung-soon asks who the parachute is and what their connections are, but the rest of the hiring committee claim that her allegations are false. Voices rise as the argument heats up, and eventually, the principal pulls rank to stop the bickering. He orders everyone but Sung-soon to leave, and once alone, he tells her to act a bit more refined. On her way home, Hae-nyul keeps replaying her mistake in her head and looks up Daechi High School's website. She tries accessing the list of teachers at the school, but it's off limits to the public. Absorbed in her own thoughts, Hae-nyul doesn't notice the subway train arrive and gets pushed by the other passengers. She drops her bag in the tussle and misses her train. Hae-nyul comes home looking crushed, and after some debating, she decides to check the forum for short-term teachers. Her search leads her to a new post accusing Daechi High School of nepotism, and if she had any hope left of being hired, it's completely gone now. Elsewhere, Sung-soon and Myung-soo discuss the candidates over dinner, and they both agree that Hae-nyul seemed like the best fit, even if she is the parachute. Myung-soo asks why she threw a fit back in the office if she scored Hae-nyul the best anyways, but Sung-soon wanted to send a message to the candidate and uphold her reputation as the crazy dog. Proving her point, she finishes up her soup first and leaves her check to Myung-soo. At the restaurant, Young-suk grows indignant for Hae-nyul's sake after hearing about the corruption at Daechi High, but before Hae-nyul even takes a bite of her noodles, she receives a call that she was hired. With a pep in her step, Hae-nyul arrives at the school for her first day of work. The news of Hae-nyul's connection spreads through the school, and Sung-soon confronts the principal who tells her that he and the vice principal were in the dark as well. As it turns out, Hae-nyul's uncle is Teacher Moon, and when he enters the faculty office, the other teachers grow quiet and disperse. The vice principal introduces Hae-nyul to the other new teachers who greet her warmly. When the vice principal steps out of the room, the teachers begin gossiping about the recent forum post accusing the school of nepotism. Along with the rumors of a permanent position opening up soon, they clearly despise the idea of a parachute swooping in and stealing the job. After their meeting, one of the teachers offers to call everyone later to grab lunch together, and feeling welcomed, Hae-nyul goes off to her office with a smile. In the college advisory department, Myung-soo advises Sung-soon to keep a neutral expression, but she does the opposite by angrily yelling and stomping out of the office. Out of the loop, Yeonwoo wonders what's bothering Sung-soon, and Myung-soo explains that the new hire is connected to Teacher Moon. Apparently, the two teachers have bad blood between them that's been going on for a while. Though Hae-nyul misses Sung-soon on her way to the office, she runs into a group of teachers led by Teacher Song on the stairs. Teacher Ha enthusiastically introduces himself and comments on the resemblance between Hae-nyul and Teacher Moon. The new teachers stare at Hae-nyul in disbelief, and it finally dawns on Hae-nyul that she's the parachute. Still in a daze, Hanyul enters the college advisory department and introduces herself to Yeonwoo, who replies back curtly. Out of the blue, Yeonwoo tells her that teachers should be more interested in teaching and the students rather than politics, and Hanyul stares at him in confusion. The phone at her desk rings, and remembering their lunch plans, Hanyul answers expectantly, only to be disappointed when it's just a work-related call. The administrator informs her to log into the school system, but Hanyul is unaware of even the basic protocols for new teachers. After receiving a rushed list of tasks, Hanyul gets her school-issued laptop, and without a moment to rest, her phone rings again. It's another work-related call, asking her to check her messages, and Hanyul hurriedly opens the app to be bombarded with a backlog of texts. The overwhelming amount of work on her first day causes Hanyul to panic, and she turns to the only teacher in the room for help. Unfortunately, it's the sixth-year short-term teacher, the one most likely to get the rumored permanent position if not for Hanyul, and he excuses himself since he doesn't work for her department. Teacher Yoon enters the office looking for Sung Soon, but finding only Hanyul at her desk, she asks the new teacher if she ate lunch. Hanyul happily says that she and the other new teachers plan on eating together, but Teacher Yoon tells her that the others are already in the cafeteria. Hanyul ends up eating alone and sits at the table across the aisle from the other new teachers. One of the teachers asked if she knew her uncle worked at this school, and Hanyul tells them that she didn't know. The teacher who asked in the first place doesn't believe her, and they start whispering comments about Hanyul, not even bothering to hide their disdain. Once everyone else is gone, Hanyul gets up to return her tray but trips over her own feet. As she sits on the floor looking defeated, Yeonwoo sees her from the window and comments to himself that she won't last very long. Hanyul limps back to the office, still ignored by the other new teachers, and the sight of her unfamiliar workplace and the day's events bring tears to her eyes. She quickly wipes them away and goes to find Teacher Moon. As Sung Soon returns from her coffee break, she catches Hanyul in Teacher Moon's office and overhears them talk about her employment. Hanyul declares her intentions to resign, but Teacher Moon advises her to stay and gain experience. He tells her that he had nothing to do with her being hired, and kept his presence here a secret from Hanyul on her mom's behalf. Rather than waste her parents' money studying for the teaching certification exam, Teacher Moon tells her to keep her options open unless she wants to be a short-term hire for the rest of her life. Memories of Youngha's funeral flash before Hanyul as she replies, "What's so wrong with that?" Teacher Moon scoffs at her answer and calls her naive. Leaving her uncle's office, Hanyul recalls the things her parents did for her, and she wipes away her tears before returning to her desk. As Hanyul packs up her things, Sung Soon asks if she's leaving. She tells Hanyul that quitting early might be for the best since teaching isn't a respected profession anymore, which means teachers have to do demeaning things occasionally. If Hanyul only wants to do cool things as a teacher, then Sung Soon thinks the position is wasted on her. But more importantly, Sung Soon states, all else aside, someone who gives up on the students first is unqualified to be a teacher. Hanyul stares at the school one more time before heading off to buy food to eat with Young-suk, and at the restaurant, a customer notices a call from my daughter on Young-suk's phone. The drunk customers ask what her daughter does, and Young-suk replies that she's a teacher. At that, they mention Young-ha, and Young-suk's face darkens. After the customers leave, Young-suk ignores Hanyul's call, and clutching a photo of Young-ha, she weeps. From the window, Hanyul watches her cry and stays outside to give her space. At home, Hanyul sits alone in the bathroom as Sung Soon's words echo in her head. With 7 days left until the first day of school, Sung Soon comes into the office despite being on vacation, and to her surprise, she finds Hanyul at her desk, too. Every day Hanyul arrives before Sung Soon and stays later than her, but regardless of what Hanyul does, Sung Soon continues ignoring her. Then one day, Hanyul doesn't appear in the office, and only when Sung Soon leaves does she spot the young teacher inside an empty classroom. Hanyul stands with her fist clenched and whole body trembling, and to the world, she's simply in front of a classroom. However, to Hanyul, she stands in front of the tunnel that changed her life. On the first day of school, all the desks in the college advisory department are filled except for the short-term position. Myung-soo asks Sung Soon if they found a replacement, but Sung Soon just smiles at his question. Down the hallway, Hanyul walks towards her office and narrates, if you find yourself trapped deep in the darkness, all you can do is sit where you are and wait until your eyes completely adjust to the darkness. Hanyul stands outside the doors, taking a deep breath, when Sung Soon makes eye contact with her. Sung Soon tells her to come in, and Hanyul pushes open the door and steps inside. The other college advisors stare at Hanyul, and she returns their gaze, no longer lost but determined. With school back in session, the teachers are busier than ever. Sung Soon gets a budget approved and is asked about Hanyul. It seemed like she'd quit, so why'd she come back? Sung Soon just sips her tea, recalling the moment when Hanyul stood in front of the empty classroom. The new teachers are gathered for training and one of the female teachers glances over at Hanyul, who's sitting apart from the others. When the session is over, the new recruits discuss the fact that they were advised not to admit that they're contract workers. They think it's common sense, but are glad that Dichi High isn't like other schools where desks are labeled with short-term or permanent status. The group heads to lunch and Hae-Nyul branches off to take the elevator alone. She's joined by Song Ji-sun, the teacher who glanced at her earlier. Ji-sun empathizes with Hae-Nyul, sharing that her first time as a short-term teacher was difficult too. She kindly offers to answer Hae-Nyul's questions at any time. They timidly share smiles. Hae-Nyul has an ally at school now. Hae-Nyul feels like they're being told to lie when the students will find out about their short-term status anyway. Ji-sun explains that private and public schools are different. Contract teachers can quickly become permanent here, so students and parents don't know who's short-term. Her advice to not let students find out weighs heavily on Hae-Nyul's mind. She sighs that beginnings are always like this as she removes the previous teacher's nameplate from her desk. Ji Ha-won, the short-term teacher in his 6th year, passes by and his gaze lingers on Hae-Nyul. She's sorting the recycling when a lady comes looking for the college advisory department. Sun-soon and Mi-eun-soo celebrate their approved budget before receiving word that a troublesome parent is here. They rush off in a panic when they realize Hae-Nyul's in the office alone. Mi-eun-soo worries about her, but Sun-soon says Hae-Nyul should quit if parents scare her. Their concern was all for naught. They enter the office to find Hae-Nyul and the parent chatting amicably. Mi-eun-soo, hold on, is she smiling? The mom discusses her daughter's med school aspirations with Sun-soon. Prep school consultations cost a fortune, so she's here to ensure the school's doing their part to support her child first. It's revealed that Sun-soon has a knack for wrapping parents around her finger. At her signal, the team gets busy and the magic begins. They first find out the student's name, Sun Ji-yeon. Mi-eun-soo immediately pulls up her academic records to confirm the stats that Sun-soon recites off the top of her head. Impressive. Despite mom's insistence on prep school, Sun-soon asserts that they can't beat the school itself when it comes to preparing Ji-yeon for post-secondary education. Hae-Nyul watches as the team works together to prove their expertise, fact-checking and printing documents in record time to support their arguments. It seems effortless, and Sun-soon smiles to see Ji-yeon's mother reluctantly accepting that they know their stuff. Principal Byun and Vice Principal Lee agree to hire internally and have a short-term teacher fill the permanent position. Teacher Moon is part of this meeting, but spaces out as he thinks about the post that Hae-Nyul told him about, regarding Dichi Hai's hiring corruption. Teacher Moon pulls up the forum when he returns to his desk and notices that a reporter commented, wanting to speak to the teacher who reported the corruption. He's so deep in thought that he doesn't notice the vice principal approaching. Back in the office, Sun-soon wraps up the consultation. Before leaving, Ji-yeon's mom thanks Hae-Nyul for the talk earlier. She says she'll compare the advice given by the school and the prep school like Hae-Nyul had advised. Sun-soon doesn't look happy. Teacher Moon showed Vice Principal Lee the article, asking if they should do something before it blows up. Thinking the rumor is about Hae-Nyul, he starts to say if this is real and she gets hired as a permanent teacher, but the idea is quickly shut down by the vice principal. Now spooked by the presence of a whistleblower, Teacher Moon observes teachers from the hallway with suspicion, eventually making eye contact with Ha-won. He enters the admin office just as Ji-yeon's mom asks if Hae-Nyul will teach here next year. Hae-Nyul's unsure of how to answer, and Teacher Moon refrains from stepping in. Vice Principal Lee warned him to be careful of rumors, lest it affect his promotion to become the vice principal in the future. As Hae-Nyul hems and haws, Sun-soon comes to the rescue to answer that of course she'll be here, she's the hidden ace of the department. The interaction leaves Hae-Nyul weak in the knees, but she has no time to rest as Sun-soon singles her out for a chat. Outside, Hae-Nyul thanks Sun-soon for the save, but she ignores that and quizzes Hae-Nyul. It's evident that Hae-Nyul's up to date on college admission stats, but she's unable to infer what the numbers mean for the admissions system. Students and parents go straight to the pricey academies because the school's consultations being free aren't appealing. Sun-soon advises Hae-Nyul to believe in the school, because what kind of teacher has more faith in prep schools than schools? Hae-Nyul apologizes sincerely. She watches Sun-soon head inside as she thinks, I felt impatient because I wanted to become a part of the school as soon as possible. She continues to narrate that impatience leads to mistakes. She finds herself outside Yoon-suk's restaurant and thinks about Ji-yeon's mother asking whether she'd be back next year. Hae-Nyul recalls a time when she and her classmates had a blast playing dodgeball with Young-ha. One of them asked, you'll teach us again next year, right? But he'd avoided answering. Ah man, he had such a sweet bond with his students. Back in the present, she looks in Yoon-suk's direction and promises aloud that she won't be defeated that easily. She leaves without going in, but Yoon-suk seems to have seen her. The next day, Mi-eun-soo discovers that the freak show, Kim Yi-boon, is going to be Hae-Nyul's partner. She'd apparently had every teacher, except Yeon-woo, beat, and a teacher muses that the law of conservation of freak shows must be real. Yi-boon enters her office and the teacher narrates that it's a mysterious law where there's a fixed number of freaks in every organization. Hae-Nyul makes her way to school amongst the crowd of students and laughs when two boys throw themselves into her path to say that she's pretty, has a halo, and to please scold them loudly later, lol. Mi-eun-soo tells Ha-won that since everyone else refused to be partnered with Yi-boon, the last to be hired got stuck with her. Ha-won later observes Hae-Nyul from a window, slapping on a smile only when students greet him. Hanyul's first day excitement doesn't last long. She gets 2 consecutive calls with instructions to come to my desk, but doesn't know who's calling. Yeonwoo knowingly points her to the right direction. Hanyul finds Yi-boon sitting at a desk that's decked out in pink. She's told that they're course partners, meaning that they'll each teach the same material to half the third-year students. It'd be best for them to teach similar things to simplify exam prep and to ensure the students don't complain. It's a sensitive time since their grades will affect their college applications. Yi-boon has always compared lesson plans with her partners, so Hanyul gladly shares that she created a presentation and handouts. Yi-boon tsks that Hanyul should have told her sooner, making it sound like she's doing Hanyul a favor when asking for her slides. Hanyul barely comprehends what just happened, reluctantly sending her the file. Yi-boon compliments her presentation but notices that Hanyul is planning to teach a section that she's not teaching. It'd make Yi-boon look bad, so she tells her to skip it. Hanyul holds in her frustration and explains that it'd be useful for the CSAT, but Yi-boon bulldozes over her opinions and advises her to lie low at school. She finishes the one-sided conversation by telling Hanyul she'll mark down the section she plans to teach. As Hanyul leaves, she overhears Yi-boon criticizing short-term teachers for being slow. Geez. Myung-soo notices that the new timetable doesn't accommodate for Yeonwoo's educational broadcast recordings on Fridays like the principal had promised, so Yeonwoo heads to academic affairs to discuss his schedule. Teacher Song gets a document approved by Principal Byun and is told to switch classes with Yeonwoo. He throws a tantrum outside the office, unhappy that everything revolves around Yeonwoo and his broadcasts. Teacher Ha, a fellow third-year teacher, reasons that Yeonwoo's appearance on EBC will promote their school, but Teacher Song is convinced that Yeonwoo is just showing off. I'm not liking the gleam in Teacher Song's eyes as he confirms that the college advisory department is holding a meeting during third period. Teacher Shim from Academic Affairs refuses to adjust Yeonwoo's timetable, since changing something for him means adjusting everyone's schedule. He witnesses her taking a call from another teacher who pulls rank and rudely criticizes her timetable, so he backs off. Teacher Shim sighs and gives him a solution: switch classes with Teacher Song. Of course, Teacher Song takes this opportunity to make him pay for embarrassing him. He yells loudly enough for the entire office to hear that Yeonwoo asked for special treatment, he didn't, and is trying to get famous. Yeonwoo grits his teeth and denies the accusations, but loses his patience when Teacher Song deduces that he's planning to use his EBC fame to work at academies to make the big bucks. Teacher Song vehemently refuses to switch classes, so Yeonwoo retreats. Hanyul's bombarded with endless messages and loses it as her to-do list grows. As she tries to organize her hectic day, Sung-soon announces that they'll have a departmental meeting during third period. She hesitates to pick up yet another phone call, but it's not Yi-boon this time. It's Teacher Song knowingly scheduling a third year's department meeting to overlap with her college advisory one, but she doesn't realize it. Seeing that everyone's trying to help Yeonwoo out, Hanyul checks her own Friday schedule before rushing off to Teacher Song's meeting. The college advisory department waits for Hanyul to begin, but she doesn't show. Vice Principal Lee makes his rounds around the school and the team realizes where Hanyul is when they find out that the third year's department is meeting right now. Hanyul finally realizes her mistake when another teacher points out that it's almost fourth period. She asks to be excused and rushes off, which surprises Teacher Ha. He'd thought that as Teacher Moon's niece, she'd be on their side. By the time she makes it back, Hanyul's completely out of breath and only Myung-soo is left in the office. To avoid eavesdroppers, they talk outside and he admits that he feels a bit insulted. He knows that the first day is busy, but that's the case for all teachers. Myung-soo kindly lets her off the hook and tells Hanyul to explain the situation to Sung-soon later. Principal Byun holds a department head meeting. He isn't happy about their college admission rates, and Teacher Song rubs salt into Sung-soon's wound by announcing that they have the lowest rates amongst nearby private schools. To be thoroughly prepared this year, Teacher Byun wants the third year's department to support the college advisory department. He stresses that they shouldn't fight, but there's no stopping these two. Teacher Song makes snide comments, and Sung-soon calls him a thug. It's definitely a common occurrence, since everyone, including the principal, leans back in their seats, knowing that the bickering match will take a while. Hanyul frantically prepares vitamin powders with notes as an apology to the team. She picks up Yi-boon's call but isn't listening, rushing to get herself sorted for her first class. Her students tease her for being drenched in sweat. Were you working out? Hanyul's so disoriented that she doesn't even realize she's teaching class 5, her homeroom. As problems arise one after another, she loses the respect and interest of her students, unable to teach a single thing during the entire period. The college advisory crew soften up when they discover Hanyul's apology notes. Yeonwoo sounds bothered by the heart she drew but can't stop looking at the post-it note, tucking it away in his drawer. After class, Hanyul dejectedly looks at the revised PowerPoint that Yi-boon sent, crossing out half the things she'd planned on teaching. She tells Myung-soo she'd like to eat with the team but they had lunch already, so she heads to the cafeteria alone. Unsurprisingly, the new teachers continue to ignore her. Though she's prepared to eat alone, she's joined by Ji-sun, who points out that Haenyul's the only one wearing her lanyard. Haenyul removes it at the speed of light when she realizes Ji-sun's right. Ji-sun believes that Haenyul told the truth about not knowing her uncle worked here. She encourages her to hang on, since this position is hard to come by. Haenyul can use this time to prepare for the certification exam. Haenyul believes contract and permanent teachers are the same, but Ji-sun knows better and tells Haenyul that she'll realize what she means later on. While they're on the topic of her course partner, Ji-sun lets Haenyul know that she has no obligation to share her materials. Haenyul works up the courage to apologize to Sun-soon for her mistake this morning. When Myung-soo saunters into the office mid-apology, Sun-soon scolds him for not properly taking care of his seatmate. Haenyul continues that she did lack faith in the school and isn't knowledgeable on other systems, but will work harder from now on. It's Yeon-woo's turn to take Haenyul outside for a chat. He thanks her for her note offering to switch classes, but can't agree to it since she'd end up with a killer schedule of 5 classes. They're both taken aback when she says that she's fine with it as the youngest member. Embarrassed, Haenyul inwardly wonders why she'd say that, but confirms the switch. As she awkwardly shuffles back inside, Yeon-woo's left behind to wonder if she's really the youngest. LOL. Sun-soon takes a glances at Haenyul's detailed lesson plans and clicks through the revised presentation before Haenyul gets back. Haenyul is summoned again, but this time, a few students are gathered around Yi-boon's desk, complimenting her slides and wishing that she taught them instead of Haenyul. Yi-boon wants Haenyul to take even more material out, since they have no time and prep schools will cover it. Haenyul's fed up with being ordered around, evenly asking to work together. She firmly voices her own opinions, and Yi-boon can't lose her temper when they're being watched by the surrounding teachers. Suggesting a coffee break, Yi-boon spitefully pushes Haenyul's textbook to the ground as she walks past. When Haenyul leaves, teacher Shim comments in awe that Haenyul sure has guts. Yi-boon calls again and Sun-soon takes the phone from Haenyul, hanging up while Yi-boon tries to put Haenyul in her place. She hangs up again when Yi-boon calls a second time, to Myung-soo's concern. Sun-soon lets Haenyul know that as a teacher, she has the authority to teach her lessons her way, nobody else has the right to change it. This advice makes Yeon-woo smile, and Myung-soo warns that Yi-boon has arrived. She storms in angrily to yell at Haenyul, only to do a complete 180 when Sun-soon says, "I answered her phone, but hung up by mistake." After she leaves, Sun-soon says that Yi-boon's not completely wrong. Can Haenyul really cover everything within a 50-minute period? It's hard to make progress if the entire lesson is packed with material. Haenyul distantly says that removing difficult content to make progress or skipping handouts isn't going to benefit the students, it's to make the teacher's life easier. Sun-soon doesn't deny this, but advises that working well with your course partner is a skill in and of itself since, like Yi-boon says, school is also an organization. She and Myung-soo take off, leaving Haenyul and Yeon-woo alone to work overtime. Haenyul gives in and condenses her lesson, absent-mindedly shredding her notes while Yeon-woo watches. He guesses that Yi-boon said to share lesson plans but doesn't actually do any work, and badmouths her in front of students. She denies it, but is surprised when he shares that he was Yi-boon's partner last year. "Want my help?" he offers. Haenyul recalls an old memory of when she visited a pet shop with her grandpa. The store was filled with white puppies, but her attention went to the lone black one. Despite her interest in the puppy, Haenyul chose a white one to take home since grandpa told her that black puppies were bad luck. Haenyul wonders how the lonely black puppy must have felt, always wagging its tail to grab someone's attention, since as a black dog herself, she understands its longing for acceptance. However, when Yeon-woo offers to help Haenyul with her Yi-boon situation, she muses that the black dog probably would act like her if it ever received concern with skepticism. Yeon-woo notices her doubting expression and reads Haenyul like an open book, even reciting what she's thinking word for word. He explains that he's returning the favor from when she offered to switch classes, so she shouldn't be so wary of his help. He hands her a USB to use as a reference for her lesson plan, but Haenyul wonders to herself how this is supposed to help her. Sun-soon calls Principal Byun to verify the department head's meeting tomorrow, but her real purpose is to figure out his evening plans. After learning that he's meeting the neighborhood principals for dinner, she notifies the other teachers at the bar. They all sigh over the news since Principal Byun never leaves those gatherings in a good mood, which guarantees a morning lecture the next day. Elsewhere, Yeon-woo finishes recording his EBC program, but it ends on a sour note as the director tells him to smile more. With the criticism weighing him down, Yeon-woo receives a text and picture from Myung-soo, telling him that they're with him in spirit. Haenyul sends Yeon-woo a text as well, cheering him on, and Yeon-woo starts texting back before deciding against it. At home, Haenyul looks over the PowerPoint Yeon-woo gave her, but the slides are filled with random pictures of Sejik characters. She assumes that he wasn't trying to help, but when she opens the video recording of his lesson, it piques her interest. During dinner, Principal Byun tries to eat a piece of meat but is continuously interrupted with people cheering or starting up conversations. Among the schools, Dichi High is known as the Black Dog, and the other principals already know of Dichi High's diminishing student body. As for the popular schools, the principals either stay quiet when asked about their secret to success or express false modesty. Principal Bune mocks the other principals at the faculty meeting the next morning and fails to notice the teachers stifle their yawns while he continues his rant. He emphasizes the school's goal for increasing college admissions, and along that line, he shares something strange he heard last night. An admissions officer from Yinhe University is making rounds at all the schools in their neighborhood except for theirs. While filing out of the office, the department heads talk about the new information, and teacher Song rubs it in Sung Soon's face, commenting on the repercussions this could have on their school. Sung Soon flatly tells him that the school's popularity would plummet, and when teacher Song criticizes her for being so direct and hurting his feelings, Sung Soon corrects him, "That's why I said it with a very sad face. Pwa ha ha ha." Though Sung Soon acts that way towards teacher Song, she looks worried when alone and makes a call to set a date for a meeting of all the head advisors in the area. On her way to work, Hae-Nyul stares at Yeon-woo's USB, still debating whether to use his tactic or not when the subway train suddenly encounters a problem. Now late for work, Hae-Nyul sprints to school but gets caught at a red light. While she waits at the crosswalk, Yi-boon greets her from the back of a taxi, and Hae-Nyul wonders why she's acting so friendly. Yi-boon shows concern for Hae-Nyul and even moves back in her seat as if motioning for her to get inside. After weighing the pros and cons, Hae-Nyul decides to accept the ride, but as she reaches out for the door, the taxi takes off. Yi-boon cheers for Hae-Nyul, who stares back at her utterly dumbfounded. Myung-soo complains about the upcoming open class for parents as Hae-Nyul runs into the office looking haggard from the morning mishaps. Before she can even catch her breath, a mass email from Principal Bune arrives in all the faculty's inbox, and of course, it's written in a font that is normally used for certificates and other official documents. He starts the email with a grand opening, using the Chinese character for great to describe their school, and rambles about the achievements of the other schools in their area. The teachers sigh over the principal's vague goal-setting agendas, but the emails don't stop for Hae-Nyul as she gets another one from Yi-boon asking for her slides. Though she hesitates for a moment, Hae-Nyul ultimately sends her presentation to Yi-boon. Teacher Moon receives a briefing on the upcoming open class which follows the same format as last year. The short-term teachers will lead while the head of the selected subject will teach one class. This year is Korean, which means Yi-boon will be the representative for the permanent teachers. Yeon-woo spots Hae-Nyul watching Yi-boon jauntily enter her classroom, and he asks her how her lesson planning went since he was worried that his method may have offended her. Hae-Nyul understands his concerns and thanks him for his help before leaving to teach her class. Meanwhile, Yi-boon opens Hae-Nyul's slides and writes down her own name without even checking the material. Having seen Yeon-woo talk with Hae-Nyul, Myung-soo asks him what his secret is to go up against Yi-boon, which Sung-soon wants to know, too. She hopes to use it against teacher Song, who looks up at them as if sensing a disturbance in the air, and Sung-soon reels back in disgust. Yeon-woo's tactic is to create a lesson plan that's fully your own, and Hae-Nyul explains in voiceover that unless others see the lesson with their own eyes, it's impossible to understand the purpose of the material fully. Thus, Yi-boon flips through the slides and is baffled by the seemingly random photos of idols, while Hae-Nyul teaches class without a hitch and engages her students with relatable examples. As laughter drifts from Hae-Nyul's classroom, Yeon-woo passes by with a smile on his face. On their coffee break, Myung-soo marvels at Yeon-woo's brilliant plan, and teacher Son also agrees that Yi-boon might lose this time. Sung-soon disagrees with their positive outlook and points out a critical difference between the two situations. Yeon-woo and Yi-boon might be equals, but Hae-Nyul is not. Unfortunately, it seems that Sung-soon may be right as Yi-boon sternly calls Hae-Nyul to her office after lunch. Teacher Moon is still bothered by the forum post concerning nepotism at their school and decides to message the poster directly. He's so absorbed in his task that he fails to notice how one and the other teachers ask him to lunch. Teacher Moon quickly closes his laptop to hide his screen, but Ha-won already saw everything and looks troubled. In the cafeteria, another teacher asks Ha-won what Teacher Moon was doing, and Ha-won nonchalantly tells her that he was looking at a forum for short-term teachers. Despite his apathetic response, Ha-won clearly feels conscious of Teacher Moon and sits by himself, away from the others. Sitting behind Ha-won, the new teachers worry about their contracts which they still haven't received, and the male teacher sighs over the delay since they might end up with unfavorable 5-month term contracts. Ha-won interjects to tell them not to worry about such things since the school usually drafts the contracts this late. Rather than appease the new teachers' worries, Ha-won's comments dampen the mood, and the new teachers leave the cafeteria. They wonder who he is, and it's Ji-sun who puts all the clues together and correctly guesses that Ha-won is the rumored 6th-year short-term teacher. After Ha-won finishes his meal, he stops momentarily to look at Hae-Nyul eating in the corner by herself, unaware of Teacher Moon watching the whole situation. On her way over to Yi-boon's office, Hae-Nyul overhears some students complain about Yi-boon's class today, and for the first time, she notices her surroundings and realizes how diligently the students work. She meets Yi-boon with a heavy heart, and as Yi-boon scolds her for not properly sharing her materials, Hae-Nyul stops defending her actions and yields, from now on, she'll share all her teaching plans. In the back, Yeon-woo witnesses the entire exchange and leaves in frustration while Ji-sun watches Hae-Nyul with a concerned expression. When Haenyul returns to her office, Yeonwoo confronts her, asking if she's a pushover, but Haenyul tells him that she's angry, too. However, schools are organizations, and in order to succeed, she needs to know how to work well with her colleagues. Sung soon meets with all the head advisors in the nearby area for drinks, and though one of the advisors praises her skills to lighten the atmosphere, Sung soon brings it down instantly. What good is all that when our school isn't popular at all? The final member of the group is a well-dressed man carrying a designer bag, and unlike the others, he works for a Hagwon, aka, for-profit private academy. As the night progresses, drunk Sung soon calls the private advisor a traitor to their cause, but he accuses her of jealousy and argues that neither of them chose this profession for some great ideal. His words infuriate Sung soon, and she gets up from her seat, screaming at the advisor that she does her job to satisfy the needs of the students and parents. Though it's late, Haenyul stays at school and works with Yi Boon on her upcoming open class. At the same time, Sung soon leaves her meeting and receives a call from her husband, who saved his other side, which is a common pun on the word husband. He berates her for not giving their son more care, but Sung soon ignores his questions and asks him where he bought her bag. It's a knockoff of the private advisor's bag, and Sung soon wails about the tiny fourth line on the bag's logo when there should only be 3. Ha 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 ha. He hangs up on her without answering, but the sight of her son on her phone's wallpaper easily placates Sung soon. A private academy suddenly messages Sung soon about a job offer with good pay, and she heaves a large sigh. Haenyul burns the midnight oil in order to finish the handout for the open class, and when the day finally arrives, the school is abuzz with busy teachers. Vice Principal Lee complains to Teacher Moon about the whole event, but Teacher Moon looks on the bright side and says that they can use the parents' evaluations when hiring one of the new teachers for a permanent position. When Vice Principal Lee learns that Yi Boon is also holding an open class, he responds incredulously like every other teacher at the school. Yi Boon's habit of taking advantage of others is common knowledge among the staff, and while a group of teachers talk about Yi Boon's newest victim, Hwon offhandedly comments on Haenyul being a new teacher, which earns him strange glances from Yeonwoo and Myung-soo. As Yi Boon gets ready for her open class, her laptop doesn't connect from the podium, so Haenyul offers to flip her slides while she teaches. In the college advisory department, Myung-soo is left in the office as the only non-Korean teacher, so when Sung soon's phone chimes with new messages, he checks it for her and sees the text from the private academy. One by one, the Korean teachers enter Yi Boon's class, but the sight of Haenyul passing out handouts bothers Sung soon. Her behavior also upsets Yeonwoo, who thinks that her pacifist approach is wrong. Haenyul tells him that her first priority is the students, and though he might worry over Yi Boon disrespecting her, she'll make sure Yi Boon doesn't look down on her. While Haenyul's thorough handout and captivating lesson plan clearly impress the other teachers, they still view her actions as overeager. As for the parents, they only praise Yi Boon, but fortunately for Haenyul, at least Principal Byun seems to recognize her contributions and invites both teachers to his office. Once Sung soon and Yeonwoo return, Myung-soo asks them how the open class went, and Sung soon begrudgingly acknowledges that the lesson was good, though Haenyul was the gopher role. Yeonwoo adds on that Haenyul was a total pushover, and the two go back and forth calling out Haenyul for acting so submissive. Myung-soo asks if they're actually taking Haenyul's side right now, and both of them vehemently deny it. In his office, Principal Byun asks who prepared the class material, and all eyes fall on Haenyul for an answer. She tells him that they both worked on it and gives Yi Boon credit for the core ideas of the lesson. After dismissing Haenyul from the room, Principal Byun asks Yi Boon for her opinion on Haenyul. In voiceover, Haenyul says that something unexpected occurred after that day, and teachers stop in their tracks at the strange sight of Yi Boon working with Haenyul. Even Teacher Moon cracks a small smile seeing his niece make an ally out of Yi Boon, but his face falls when he spots Hwon staring at the two teachers from the window. Now a complete fan of Haenyul, Yi Boon sends snacks to the college advisory department and comes to their office to look for her. She tells the others to not eat Haenyul's snacks when she's gone, and to Myung-soo's dismay, Sung soon enjoys Yi Boon's frequent visits since she brings them food unlike a certain someone. Teacher Son gets the message and promises to bring his entire refrigerator next time as he gets up in a huff, not forgetting to steal some chips on his way out. During lunch, Yi Boon sits with Haenyul in the cafeteria and hands her another watermelon slice. She then glares at the new teachers for ostracizing Haenyul, and they immediately avert their gaze from the scary teacher. Seeing Haenyul prove him wrong, Yeonwoo lets a tiny smile spreads on his face. Teacher Moon leaves the office late at night and sighs over the lack of response from the forum poster. However, as he pulls out of the parking lot, he receives a message from the poster. Pretending to be on the market, Teacher Moon asks for more information, but the poster refrains from revealing anything personal and simply tells him to not apply. When the poster tells him that they're still at school, Teacher Moon runs back and notices a single lighted room in an otherwise empty building. He messages the poster, asking if they're in the faculty room, but his odd question is enough to alert the poster to leave. By the time Teacher Moon arrives, the poster is gone, but something else catches Teacher Moon's attention. Haenyul bikes to Young-suk's restaurant and sees her crouched on the ground smoking. She turns to leave, but Young-suk calls after her to come eat. She makes a bowl of noodles for Hanyul, and to Hanyul's surprise, she charges her for the meal. Bewildered, Hanyul hands over the money, and Youngsuk hides her smile as she takes the payment, clearly messing with her. Hanyul tells Youngsuk to stand and smoke if she won't quit, but Youngsuk asks if she's spying on her since she's always stopping by the restaurant. Handing back Hanyul's money, Youngsuk tells her to wash dishes before she leaves, and Hanyul smiles, knowing the true meaning behind her actions. Sun-soon greets teacher Yoon in the morning, and the older teacher compliments Sun-soon's new bag, the knockoff from before. Embarrassed, Sun-soon angrily shoves the bag under her desk, but as soon as she sees the note from her class, on a sticker of stray kids, Sun-soon returns to her cheery mood. Myung-soo arrives to the office next, but when he sees Sun-soon on her phone, he thinks back to the messages he saw about the job offer. When Sun-soon asks to speak with him, he assumes it's about the private academy and begs her not to do it. He gets down on his knees, but Sun-soon pushes him away and shows him the text message about the admissions officer visiting their school today. Realizing his mistake, Myung-soo returns to his desk mortified. During their department meeting, the advisors discuss the upcoming visit, but Hanyul raises her to ask a question. She doesn't know what an admissions officer is. Though she tells herself that there's no shame in asking something you don't know, she lowers her hand in embarrassment. After Myung-soo explains what an admissions officer does, Sun-soon shares with the team their two goals. First, they have to win over the admissions officer and learn why their students aren't being accepted, and second, they have to become friendly with the admissions officer and do whatever it takes to persuade them to attend their admissions information session. Myung-soo asks how Sun-soon managed to get an admissions officer to visit this time of year, but Sun-soon avoids answering. Yeon-woo guesses that she used her social capital, and the three advisors continue their conversation while picking up snacks for the officer. As they talk about connections, Myung-soo asks Hanyul where she went to school, and she tells them that she attended her hometown schools. Coincidentally, Myung-soo went to the same district, and they find out that they graduated from the same elementary school though decades apart. Now that Hanyul is a junior alumnus, Myung-soo treats her even more amicably and answers her questions before Yeon-woo can. In the elevator, Yeon-woo wishes for the admissions officer to be experienced this time since the last one was a short-term employee. Hearing the word short-term makes Hanyul feel self-conscious, but Myung-soo tells her not to worry since she's skilled. It's up to luck to decide whether or not the admissions officer will be helpful this time. But when Sun-soon introduces the younger officer to the team, they realize it's another dud. The officer reads the school's application guideline at their school and calls someone else to ask about the university's policies. Seeing as the officer won't offer much help, Sun-soon quietly gathers the group and informs them that they'll resort to that plan. Myung-soo is against the idea since the neighboring schools won't look favorably on their actions, but Sun-soon tells them to only think of the students. Myung-soo waits for Hanyul to return from her class and pulls her aside from Yi-boon to talk. While they walk outside, Myung-soo tells her that the three of them all submitted a business trip request for next Thursday, and Hanyul hangs her head at the news. Myung-soo asks if she wants to join them, and Hanyul perks up instantly. Unable to contain her smile, Hanyul asks what they'll be doing, and Myung-soo says that it's sales. Hanyul stares at him confused, and Myung-soo asks again, "Do you want to come with us or not?" We meet Sun-soon as a high school senior in 1994, just as a new president was sworn into office and the CSAT was introduced for the first time. She eeny-meeny-miny-moed her way through her mock math exam, confused and strapped for time. Her facial expressions are priceless. Sun-soon's teacher could only apologize and say, "Let's rely on luck tomorrow. I love you guys," as the class collectively sighed. She narrates that it was the hardest CSAT to date, leaving everybody in tears, except for her. The college advisory department are all dressed up and arrive at a hotel. Yeon-woo and Hanyul are invested in the story, guessing that Sun-soon didn't cry because she did well, but nope, she bombed it. Though her homeroom teacher had suggested some safe schools to apply to based on her grades, Sun-soon ambitiously applied for a top school, Yinhee University. Yeon-woo and Hanyul are as shocked as Sun-soon's parents were that she actually made it in. Prestigious schools saw a lack of applicants that year due to the low CSAT scores. While others were too afraid to apply for top-tier schools, Sun-soon was gutsy enough to send in an application despite her grades, resulting in her acceptance. It's something that could have only happened in the 90s. As the quartet arrive at their destination, the admissions fair for 6 high schools in Gangnam, Sun-soon gives Myung-soo a look and states that college admissions are all about information now. They settle into their seats at the table and Yeon-woo guesses that Myung-soo and Sun-soon are in a spat with the way he's acting. Sun-soon happily greets Ha-won, who is preparing to present Dichi High to the parents of prospective students. One of the short-term teachers, Teacher Jang, notices that Hanyul came with her team. She's not the only one, because Ha-won also watches Hanyul with an unreadable expression. Hanyul learns that Ha-won was with the college advisory department up until 2 years ago. Teacher Jang introduces herself to the team, and Myung-soo guesses that she and Hanyul must be close since they're both new. She goes along with it, not bothering to correct him. Teacher Ha shares macarons with the after-school department back at the office. They learn that the college advisory department are at the fair, and shudder at the thought of being at that scary place. Ji-sun thoughtfully eyes Hae-nyul's empty seat before asking for an extra box of macarons. Ah. Teacher Jang notes that Haewon must be very capable if Sung-soon puts her trust in him. She eyes Hae-nyul for a reaction, which Yeon-woo notices. When it's finally Haewon's turn, a wave of parents get up to leave and mutter that it's a waste of time to even listen to the Dichi High presentation. Sung-soon matter-of-factly states that this is how unpopular their school is, directing her comment at Myung-soo, who fidgets uncomfortably and avoids her gaze. As Haewon gets started on stage, Yeon-woo informs Hae-nyul that their purpose for coming today is sales. She recalls Myung-soo mentioning sales when talking about visiting the college admissions offices. Sales aren't exactly standard procedure, so Myung-soo's been acting out because he doesn't want to go. He's surprisingly into following standard procedures even though his face doesn't look very standard, Yeon-woo jokes. This earns a chuckle out of Hae-nyul, but the smile disappears as quickly as it appeared when she notices teacher Jang watching. Yeon-woo explains that colleges don't typically give advice about managing student records. The department therefore attends info sessions or invites admissions officers to visit the school to gather information about applications. Hankook University is quite prestigious, so they personally visit their admissions office. This is what they really mean by sales as a joke amongst themselves. It's not breaking any rules, but could be considered cheating. Understanding Myung-soo's feelings now, Hae-nyul starts to ask about Sung-soon, but teacher Jang interrupts in an attempt to join the conversation. Yeon-woo seems to purposely ignore her, making things awkward for everyone, and answers that Sung-soon believes the school's responsible for their students. Parents point out the school's sore points during the Q&A session, such as their low acceptance rates into top schools. Haewon loses the crowd as they murmur amongst themselves. Sung-soon directly addresses Myung-soo now, should we still not do sales? At his reluctant approval, Sung-soon puts her game face on and grabs a mic. She introduces Yeon-woo to show off that he hosts EBC lectures, which impresses the parents. Sung-soon shares that they intend to work with Hankook University to improve student record-based applications, which a parent pointed out as their weakness. The crowd's interest is piqued when Sung-soon invites the parents to the school's conference. She announces that Hankook University's admissions officer will be there to share useful information, which turns the tide in their favor and finally makes Myung-soo light up. The teachers part ways after the fair. Sung-soon and Myung-soo are buddy-buddy again, and Hae-nyul finds herself thinking about what she learned today. She'd asked Yeon-woo what he personally thought of the sales tactic, to which he answered that he considers it part of his job to send kids to college. From outside her parents' dry cleaners, Hae-nyul watches as an irate customer becomes pleased when her dad uses an unconventional way to remove a stain. Hae-nyul narrates, if an anomaly doesn't break the rules, doesn't that naturally qualify for an exception? Her parents are adorably overjoyed to see Hae-nyul, and it's so nice to see her smile so happily for once. Meanwhile, Ji-sun leaves the macarons on Hae-nyul's desk with a note before leaving for home. Principal Byun praises Sung-soon for attending the fair and heartily agrees that she's the star of the school. Teacher Han notices her leaving the office, prompting Teacher Song to complain about her as per usual. Hae-nyul sees the macarons from Ji-sun and smiles, but Ji-sun isn't at her desk. She's picking up some documents when she overhears that a teacher Park, who's a permanent teacher, has decided to return to school early. One of the new hires will have to sign a 5-month contract instead. She shares this information with the others at lunch, who are understandably unhappy. A 5-month contract doesn't even allow them to qualify for unemployment benefits afterwards. The others agree that Hae-nyul should get the shortened contract as the last one to be hired. Well, can't argue with that. Teacher Park's unexpected return has everybody frustrated. The chief of administration, Teacher Yu, speaks with Vice Principal Lee about one of the short-term hires signing a 5-month contract. Out of principle, he suggests Hae-nyul, who joined them last. Overhearing this, Teacher Moon is about to jump in, but the vice principal motions at him to stop. Sung-soon is called into the office to be updated on the situation while Vice Principal Lee takes Teacher Moon outside to talk. Teacher Yu laments that he always has to clean up the messes they make. Teacher Moon complains about the unfair treatment, the job posting advertised a year-long position. Vice Principal Lee understands, but can't do anything about it. They can't accommodate for a short-term teacher over a permanent one. He warns Teacher Moon to butt out of Hae-nyul's matters to prevent the rumors from worsening. Returning to his desk in a funk, Teacher Moon greets Haewon and a few other teachers who are chatting on their break. He pulls up the forum again and overhears the other teachers pointing out that Haewon speaks uniquely. He uses an uncommon word for corrupt. Teacher Moon notices that Haewon's unusual word choice is the same corrupt that the poster uses on the forum, solidifying his suspicions. Sung-soon deliberates on whether to bring Hae-nyul on the business trip as she mulls over the contract situation. Right before Hae-nyul returns to her desk, Yeon-woo takes a call on her behalf, learning that she didn't submit Class 5's attendance. Hae-nyul finds that strange, showing Yeon-woo her completed attendance sheet. He realizes what happened, promising the caller that Hae-nyul will double-check. He explains that the teachers have gone digital and submit attendance through the teacher's portal. Nobody uses the book anymore. Frustrated, Sun soon throws a pen and sighs that Haniel's living in the 90s alone. To make matters worse, Yi-boon brings a bunch of flyers that Haniel requested to print, revealing to a flustered Haniel that she'd filled out the wrong print request form. Vice Principal Lee witnesses this exchange nearby, making Sun soon feel uneasy. Yi-boon brings up the department's business trip, asking why they didn't include my Haniel. She bluntly asks if Haniel's being ostracized because of the rumors with Teacher Moon, but nobody answers. Sun soon marches towards Haniel with purpose, throwing down folders filled with material to study prior to the college visits. They include analyses of the school's college acceptance rates, accepted students, and their promotional brochure. Myung-soo and Yeon-woo seem unsettled, but under the vice principal's watchful eye, Sun soon berates Haniel for being unable to process simple paperwork. As soon as Vice Principal Lee leaves, Sun soon tells Haniel not to apologize and to take action. Nobody can criticize her for her connections if she can show that she's competent. Saved by the bell, everyone leaves Haniel alone to react to the events that just transpired. In the hallway, Hwan overhears Myung-soo commenting that Sun soon seems especially hard on Haniel. Yeon-woo calls it a love-hate relationship. Myung-soo, I get why she might not like Haniel, but how do you know she loves her? Ha! Haniel looks through the documents and recalls what Sun soon said to her today. Ji-sun sees her picking up some brochures that Sun soon dropped on the floor, but leaves without saying bye. She seems deep in thought as she walks home and receives a text from teacher Jang that confirms that they decided on Haniel for the shortened contract. Oblivious to what's awaiting her, Haniel works hard through the night, studying the material at Young-suk's restaurant. The after-school department are reviewing the after-school programs, singling out Haniel's teaching proposal for being too difficult. Ji-sun later takes Haniel outside for coffee, where Haniel smiles shyly and admits that she's been wanting to teach an in-depth class like the one she proposed. Though Ji-sun acknowledges that it's a great class for the students, she brings Haniel back to reality. They won't be here forever, and other teachers will have to take on the workload when Haniel leaves. Ji-sun hesitates before advising Haniel not to work so hard. You can just be somewhere in the middle. Don't you think that's enough? We'll be leaving anyway. As she makes her way back to the office, Haniel narrates that she'd briefly forgotten that she'd be leaving this school. She's entranced by the sight of students working hard in class when Teacher Yu asks to speak to her about her contract. Meanwhile, Teacher Son approaches Sun soon to suggest that Haniel retract her proposal for the same reasons that Ji-sun cited. Besides, I heard that she might not be here after the vacation, which is news to Yeon-woo and Myung-soo. Ji-sun rushes over to tell Teacher Son that she talked to Haniel, so he apologizes and retreats, but everyone's in a somber mood when Haniel returns. Myung-soo and Yeon-woo listen as other teachers discuss the issue regarding the after-school class during break. Teacher Son understands that it's a good program for the students, but the problem persists that nobody will be willing to take over her classes when she leaves. Yeon-woo offers to teach the course with Haniel, surprising everybody. This effectively solves the problem, so Teacher Son agrees and Yeon-woo heads back in with Myung-soo following behind. Is that a smirk on his face? Teacher Cha from Information Systems notes that Yeon-woo doesn't have much to gain from this arrangement. Hwan remarks that Haniel must be amazing for him and Yi-boon to want to work with her. Teacher Son thinks that she must be a natural, but Hwan seems to be bothered. Haniel can't help but think about Ji-sun's advice to not work so hard, recalling her meeting with Teacher Yu, who broke the news and apologized for the situation. Sun soon watches as Haniel brushes her hair behind her ears and recomposes herself for class. Yeon-woo casually announces that he'll teach Haniel's after-school program with her because he thinks it's a good class. He'll edit the proposal, so she doesn't have to withdraw it anymore. Haniel doesn't have much to say except thanks. Before entering their classrooms, Ji-sun calls out to Haniel and sincerely tells her that she's rooting for her, an encouragement that Haniel returns. Teacher Yu chats with Teacher Song for a bit before remembering that he forgot to send the short-term teachers a message about signing the contracts. Teacher Song's idea of problem-solving is to make a public announcement during class time, asking all short-term teachers to report to the admin office as soon as possible. It's incredibly tactless of him, and most teachers are uncomfortable with the kids finding out who the short-term teachers are. Haniel and Ji-sun are both frozen post-announcement, unsure of what to do. A message pops up on Ji-sun's computer with an email that exposes her short-term status, which her students notice. Vice Principal Lee takes Teacher Song outside to ask him to be more considerate to other teachers before acting. Teacher Song just argues that the kids know who's a contract teacher even if they don't show it. Plus, short-terms really are different from the permanent teachers. We're family who will be here for life, and they're just people passing through. The vice principal can't believe what he's hearing, and leaves him with a warning to watch himself, but Teacher Song continues to mouth off and it's clear that he resents the short terms. All the short-term teachers including Hwan signed their contracts that day, but Ji-sun never showed up. Her desk is completely cleared out and nobody knows whether she left voluntarily or was forced to leave. Tears escape as Hanyul remembers all the encouragement and kindness Ji-sun had shown her despite being in the same position. With her gone, Hanyul signs the one-year contract with a heavy heart. The remaining new recruits make sure that Hanyul hears them talking during lunch, insinuating that she shamelessly stole Ji-sun's spot. They call her thick-skinned, but Hanyul is clearly affected by their words. As if being chased, Hanyul literally runs away from the new recruits after lunch to escape to the elevator, where she finds her uncle. In a moment of sudden determination, she asks what she must do to become a permanent teacher, but he draws a professional line between them. Hwan finds them in the elevator, but Hanyul doesn't move until he calls out to her. Hanyul's still pretty out of it during their department meeting, until Sun Soon asks how her studying's going. She's pleased to see all the notes Hanyul made, but suddenly remembering Ji-sun's words of advice to not work too hard, Hanyul clams up. Everybody waits expectantly for her to share her findings, but she lies and says that she doesn't know because it was too difficult. She decides not to share her opinions, disappointing Sun Soon, who asks the other two to leave the room. Teacher Jang visits the information systems department where she overhears that Teacher Moon had asked for a list of the teacher's IP addresses to investigate the corruption post, but did not get that information as it would be an invasion of privacy. Sun Soon guesses what's on Hanyul's mind. "I'm not one of them anyway. They won't listen to anything I say." She denies it, but Sun Soon probes and asks where her spirit has gone when she was filled with passion before. Hanyul makes up some excuses, and Sun Soon says that if she knew that Hanyul was going to run away, she wouldn't have included Hanyul's business trip request with theirs. Sun Soon returns to the office alone, and says that Hanyul won't be joining them on the trip today. When Hanyul saunters in a few moments later, she's back to her senses and asks to join them. She admits that she thought about quitting because she's not one of them and can't stay with even if she wants to. With emotions welling up, she promises that it was all just a fleeting thought and asks for Sun Soon's understanding. The team observes her in her moment of raw honesty, and Sun Soon tells her to pack her things and join them. Hanyul's so happy. Since Teacher Cha denied his request for the IP addresses, Teacher Moon takes it upon himself to search Hwan's laptop. He tries various passwords, but is unable to log in. This definitely makes him look more guilty than he actually is. The team's in good spirits, but their mouths hang open to see the state that Sun Soon's car is in. Hanyul accidentally grabs a dirty sock from the back seat, which Yeonwoo immediately tosses away. LOL. Sun Soon defends herself by saying that it's not good to wash cars too often, or it'll get spoiled and arrogant. Everybody steals glances at Hanyul, who observes her surroundings. They decide to walk around the campus, but the boys head to the restroom together, leaving the ladies behind. Sun Soon and Hanyul start to speak at the same time, and it's so awkward that Sun Soon excuses herself to go to the restroom too. She hesitates and turns around to say the one thing Hanyul needed to hear most to the students: they're both the same. They're both teachers. Hanyul enjoys the breeze on her face as a tear escapes and she's finally able to smile.